right, welcome back to the next episode of Get Your Real Estate License. Today we're going to be talking about title concepts, what title is, how it works, what are the benefits. We're going to talk about how we interact with the title. We're going to talk about the fundamental concepts. A lot of people have a misconception of what title truly is. We're going to talk about conditions, about voluntary alienation, as well as involuntary alienation, how property can be taken from us through an operation of law. We're going to talk about wills, heirs, probate, a lot of other ways that you can transfer property or transfer the ownership of title. Okay? Now, to start out with, one of my favorite things is, has anybody ever seen title? If you've seen title, raise your hand. I hope nobody raises their hand. He's in the back. Title is an etherical concept. No one has ever seen title before, all right? I always equate it to the game of Zelda. If you remember Zelda, where she's got the little diamond above her head, and then she bumps into somebody, and you hear boop, and the diamond moves over to the other person. That's kind of what we're talking about today. You may have seen the deed, which transfers title, or the title insurance policy, but no one has ever seen title. It's like an idea. Well, I saw the wheel. Well, that's the wheel that resulted from the idea, but you can't see the idea, okay? It differs from the word that most of you guys are thinking about when you think about your automobile and title to your automobile. Differs slightly, all right? The title to your automobile actually shows transfer. The title to your house shows ownership. There's a difference, okay? So try not to get those confused. Don't be thinking in terms of my car title, because it's slightly different than how the housing title works. You can transfer title either voluntarily or involuntarily, where someone takes it from you. Voluntarily, the term we use is, remember, conveyance. Conveyance is the typical word when they convey the property. And there is a set procedure to do that. If you transfer the property involuntarily, it is through an operation of law, like foreclosure, divorce, something to that nature. You can transfer property while you're alive, or you can transfer it upon your death through a will, and we're going to talk about probate and testate and intestate and all of that kind of stuff, all right? All right, so let's go. Here we go. The first thing I want to talk about is voluntary alienation. Voluntary means you are choosing to do it. Alienation means to separate yourself or cut away from. So you are voluntarily giving up the property. And you can do that through a sale or a gift. Either way. Remember, disposition is one of your rights. If you want to give it away, you can give it away. The term we use for that is conveyance. It is the conveyance of a property. Or sometimes you hear us call it selling it or whatever. But the technical term they use is conveyance. Back to that OR and that EE thing that we've talked about once before, you're going to start see it becoming more popular over the next couple weeks and chapters. So we have what's called a grantor and the grantee. We can't use seller and buyer because that would put attorneys out of business. Got to have these real fancy words so they can help explain them. So typically you see the words grantor, which is the conveyor of the property. We think of them as the seller. Now, if it's a gift, it's the giver. The grantee is the person receiving the property, which you would probably call the buyer, or the receiver if it's a gift. So the grantor will convey the property to the grantee. That's the really fancy legal way of saying the buyer's going to sell the property to the seller's going to sell the property to the buyer. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do this through a symbolization of a passing of a piece of paper that we call a deed. This is the Zelda's boop. All right? Remember when we started and we talked about the legal bundle of rights, and I said that stems from the Old English version where they used to break a branch off the tree and they would pass the branch from one person to the other. That's how they would show transfer of property back in the feudal system. Same kind of concept, only now it's a legal document called a deed. Now, the problem with a deed that most people don't understand is that a deed serves a very limited purpose. It does not show ownership. A deed merely shows that ownership was transferred at some point. All right? So I can't show the deed to my property and it be dated 20 years ago and say, well, I own the property because there's the deed. No, all that showed was that the deed was transferred 20 years ago. The title is what shows ownership. All right? It's kind of backwards from a car. And that's what I was trying to tell you. Matter of fact, once you're done with the deed and they transfer the ownership and boop, that little diamond goes, throw it away. Now, we record it because everybody wants everything recorded in today's world. But the reality is it's worthless. Matter of fact, when you go to sell your house, they'll make you a new deed. All right? You won't even use that deed. You're going to use a new one because the new one's going to show transfer at that point in time. I always equate it to like lighting my favorite cigar, and you've got a match, and you strike the match, and then there's fire on the match. You transfer that fire to your cigar. What do you do with the match when you're done? Throw it away because it's served its purpose. It has transferred the fire from that stick to my stick, my cigar. All right? That's what a deed does. Transfers or conveys property from the grantor to the grantee. Once it's served its purpose, it's virtually useless. Okay? Let's change audio files.